Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to We Have a Take, the What podcast. I am Tara Bowen Biggs, joined once again by Rose Harding. Hi, Rose.
Hi, Tara. How are you today?
I am great. So happy to be talking with you. We just put out a bonus episode, which was my conversation with Tom Haverstraw, and I'm so bummed that you were not able to make that. But he did say he really wanted to come back on when you're there. He loved the question that you asked, and so I think that we could have a really great time, talking about like all kinds of great things. But now I have you back. I have you all to myself too, so I'm excited about that.
Can I just say that I love the sweatshirt that you're wearing? Because
Oh,
that was
thank
like
you.
maybe one of my favorite Trailblazing releases.
Yep.
Because it's based on a Matisse.
Yes, it's the Matisse shot
Yes,
adaptation. It's the one that looks like a Matisse style print, but it's Damian Lillard making this is the shot over Paul George.
that's right. It's really nice. And that was like they put out that Matisse release after Matisse was on our team. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's an all-time fave.
You know what I did at 4 o'clock in the morning this morning?
What were you why were you doing anything at 4 o'clock in the morning this
Oh,
morning?
I'm an early riser. Um, I ordered a two maniac sweatshirt, which I cannot wait to get. Do
Oh,
you
good.
do you already have one?
I have a Two Mania t-shirt from
Okay.
Basketball.
Yeah.
Um so is that the one you're talking
That's the one I
about?
got. Yeah, but I got the
Okay.
sweatshirt. I got the black sweatshirt. I had a really hard time. I was like, I don't feel like I can get the yellow because I'm not a wrestling fan, and I feel like I need to have that connection in order to like legitimately wear the yellow one. And I don't want white just because I know it will be a complete disaster after I've worn it twice. So I went with the black with the red lettering.
Yeah, I also have a black one because anyone who wants to see me in yellow has a really sick like visual expectation of the world because I look like real gross in yellow.
I feel like I probably would also look not very good in yellow. I hadn't even thought about that aspect. I was just thinking like I can't responsibly wear a yellow shirt that's a takeoff. Is it Hulkmania? I think.
I think that's right. And also like isn't the Hulk kind of
Yeah,
meh?
there's I think most of them there's I don't know.
Meh? Okay.
There's so much wrestling and basketball crossover and that train just flew right by me.
Yeah, I know about the Denny one now with John Cena,
Hmm.
but that's like the probably the and then I know a little bit about The Rock, but only because of The Rock the movie star, not because of The Rock the wrestler. And
Yeah.
like that's the end of my knowledge around professional wrestling.
Totally. Did we talk on this podcast about like the face thing? Like how I thought when we were in I was like in first, second, third grade, like the meanest thing that you could do to somebody is if they said something that like it was dumb and you didn't like, you'd put your hand up and be like facial. And I I don't know where that came from, but I remember clearly in like primary school doing that. And then
I
like
think
we all got in trouble for doing that. We couldn't do it anymore.
I think you're you told that story when we had Mike Richmond on because Mike told us about the John
Right.
Cena how he asked the like the in arena crew to do this for him because he wanted to do the John Cena celebration when he got an and one.
That's
So
right.
now they play that music when he gets the and one, which is they've been nice and numerous lately, which has been great. So we get to see one of these guys the hand wavy thing, like at least once a game.
I still do not recognize the music when it like it's just that it does not register in my head until everyone like it's all over and everyone's like, "Oh, can you just believe they just played that?" And I'm like, "I missed it."
That's It's okay. I mean, you could like pull it up on YouTube or something and hear it, and it's fine. It's whatever. I only know what it is because I've seen it and heard it together so many times, and I like vaguely knew what it sounded like before that. But now I get like a bunch of reps because of uh the arena playing it.
Okay, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll go on after we're done and go listen to it just so I know what it is. So clearly, what podcast? Not a wrestling podcast, not a second apron podcast. We know the things that that we're not gonna focus or concentrate on. We
I
can let
really
other people
want
do
some
that.
I really want somebody though to put out like an NBA themed apron with like the apron rules on like the apron for people who are like cooks and also basketball fans. That would be a very funny apron, right?
Yes, like that portion, the portion of the CBA that addresses the apron, and just put that on
Yes.
an apron. I
Just
love
print
that
it on an
idea.
apron.
We should do that. Maybe we can reach out to basketball and
Get her to make the apron.
I love that. Well, clearly we had too much time off. Are you? I'm personally so glad All-Star Weekend is over, or
It's
All-Star break.
it's the longest, like, you know what it feels like? It feels like being on a cruise. Not to say that I've ever been on a cruise, I
Yeah,
should put that out there. But like it just feels like being on a cruise where it's not quite reality and you're watching this thing unfold like regular life and in this case regular basketball on All-Star Weekend and it doesn't resemble any of the things that you like about it and it's all the things you don't. You're like, dude, are we sure we want an All-Star game is I guess my question.
All-Star Game is like the Love Boat, like how Love Boat is to life. Like we probably didn't watch the Love Boat. That was like my favorite show back when I was like doing facial. I was also watching the Love Boat.
Well, all I know is that it's boring. I
Yeah.
watched it. Like the Rising Stars thing was interesting, but it was like there were so many rules. I like couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm like, well, just watch, Bryce and Tumani and what, I'll be happy with that. And then after the Rising Stars thing was over, I'm like, well, I'm done.
Yeah, it
I
just
don't need to
so
watch
it
the game.
it just reminds me and like kind of punches me in the face with how old and out of touch I am. And so I just like don't even bother because like I don't know any of those celebrities. The only ones I know, and I know we've talked about this before, the only ones I know are the WNBA players who should not be there in the first place. But otherwise I know none of them. And yeah, I just like the time off. But then after All-Star Weekend, there's this time where there's actually no NBA at all. And then, ugh. So I was really glad that the Blazers are back in action. I went to the Laker game,
Yes. How
which
was that?
could have been worse. Um, it was actually, uh, at the beginning, it was just like, oh, this is going to be a long night. But the fact that that Luca wasn't playing and he wasn't even in the building that I could see, that tamped down. I was like bracing myself for not just Laker fans, not just LeBron fans, but also Luca fans in addition. And I was just like, this is going to be intolerable. But so the Luca fans didn't have anything to cheer about. And the Laker fans, it's the Lakers. I mean, it's sort of at this point, I have just accepted that, the Lakers exist and like they unlike the Golden Warriors who actively like do things that just make me want to like tear my hair out and throw things, the Lakers just existence is just sort of annoying. So I don't have as hard of a time at Laker games as I do watching a Golden Warriors game. Um but we did have a Blazer fan sitting in front of us who was picking a fight with the Lakers fans nearby,
Hmm.
and it was just like, come on. Like, they're not worth like getting in a fight with. Like, they were challenged, oh, go outside, I'm gonna beat you up. And I was just like, stop. This is not. And then this person finally like left when somebody went to go get an usher and be like, dude, you can't be like this. And so this person who was trying to pick a fight with the Laker fan like got up and left. And then we had to be nice to Laker fans
Oh, because
because we felt bad because this person was like not being very representative. Like
yeah.
the talking smack is
Oh.
fun and fine, but
You had to
then trying to like, but then when it crossed the line into like physically threatening somebody, like we can't stand by for that. And so as a result, we had to sit there and like be like friends with the Laker fans, which didn't feel great, but it was fine. It was actually totally fine. And as far as the game went, the fact that the Blazers like put it together and like got a little bit better as the game wore on, and that, I'm not going to talk about, chasing losses, but it wasn't the end of the world that they weren't able to pull out that win.
it wasn't a bad loss
No.
because they were able to like the third quarter, I feel like they really put the plan back together and put some points on the board. I think I didn't watch it I think I didn't watch it live. I watched it on replay, but I think that what I remember happening is that Denny put together a really nice third quarter where he scored a bunch of points.
Hmm.
And then they were able to pull it close.
Hmm.
But like it was like the first quarter was quite bad, I recall.
Yeah, it was like 13 or 14 points. It was like the points were like in the teens, and I remember that specifically because when we were preparing for the last podcast, I was thinking about things that I was glad about. And one of the things that I was glad about was that I learned that Miami fans this season, let's see if I can find it written down without taking too long. Um, this season, Miami fans have had to sit through either like 3 or 4 quarters where the team scored less than 10 points.
Ugh.
And I was thinking, thank God the Blazers are not that bad.
Yeah.
I sat through 1 quarter in my life that was less than 10, and it was awful. I can't imagine doing more than one in a season. So anyway, I had gone and looked and seen like what the lowest scoring quarter was this season. It was like 14. It was not great. So I think it was either 13 or 14 points that first quarter against the Lakers. So it was definitely not great, but they did put some stuff together, get some stuff ironed out, and had ended up, like you said, not a bad loss.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like so. I think I watched the so I think what happened is I watched like toward the end of the second half, like part of the second half of that game. I was busy earlier, and then I went back and I watched the whole thing the next day with my daughter because as when the Blazers don't play, we don't watch other teams play on those days. We watch a replay of the Blazer game. Um, but like when it like got to the end, it was like they were like in like the let's foul or let's see if we can get a steal, and if not, then we foul kind of thing. Like they was still winnable up until the very end even though LeBron,
He scored 40.
I know, but he also had 10 turnovers.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So this is a funny thing that happened. I went because so yesterday I wanted to like post this because I saw um Denny was getting to the free throw line again yesterday, and I wanted to look up what his free throw shooting percentage was this season. Because one of the things that I found when I was doing research for the Denny episode is that that was like a big, like, kind of red flag from scouts when he was coming into the NBA is that he wasn't a good free throw shooter. He shot like 60% in Euro League and like 55 like career or something. He was like not a good free throw
Hmm.
shooter. Um, so I wanted to go back and look. So this year he's shooting, I think, 78% so far on the season, which is far better than he's ever shot in any other previous season. He's been consistently getting better. Last year he shot better than the year before, so I think that he's on like a good trajectory and he's shooting more free throws this season than any other
Yeah,
season he's
I
had.
was going to ask if that has gone up as well.
Yes, so the number of
Cool.
free throws that he takes per game has gone up, and so has his free throw shooting percentage. Anyway, all that said, when I went to look that up last night, because I wanted to know the exact numbers, one of the weird things that popped up was how butthurt apparently Lakers, I don't and Reporterland, whatever, that Denny posted a photo of him on Instagram, like stealing the ball and dunking it, and LeBron on his knees in the background because LeBron had fallen over, and they were all butthurt about this because I don't know because
Did you
LeBron's their
just think
king.
that's just like an unwritten rule that you don't show LeBron like in a less than exemplary position?
I don't know, but I do remember when I was also doing research for the Denny episode, is that he kind of had a beef with LeBron last year when he was on the Wizards, which Blazer fans might not know about because he wasn't on our team yet. But apparently last season, I think it was last season, last spring, there was a game where LeBron really like bowled him over in like a I don't remember if it was like a chicken wing or whatever, but he like really like looked like he could have hurt Denny. And Denny was pissed about that. He was hot about that because he thought the thing that you do in a game is that when you do that kind of thing and play stops, you check on the player that you hurt. And he didn't feel like LeBron did that. And he like said that in his post game. So all that's to say is that last season he even had some stuff with LeBron. So I think that there might be some weird Denny LeBron stuff, which I will say as a Blazer fan, it makes me like him even more. That
Oh,
he's got a funny LeBron thing.
so and so much makes it even better that foul that Tumani drew on
Yes.
LeBron. That makes that
Yes.
even better.
Like they are both very annoying players to
Oh my gosh. I love that. We're getting closer, Rose. We're getting closer and closer to being that team that everybody hates to play. I'm so excited.
Yeah, like the Rock, like for it's like kind of like the Rockets, like well, and the Grizzlies for a while were
Right.
that
You just knew
team.
you were going to get beat up.
Yeah, and if they have players that are like kind of annoying, like for the long time. Remember the Grizzlies? They had like Dylan Brooks, and like like they were just obnoxious. And if you're not going to be like good yet, like you can at least be obnoxious.
Hmm. I'm all for it. That works. That definitely works for me. One of the things that I do remember about the Laker game, especially that first quarter, so I was watching the offense and I thought to myself, it's like they're running the offense, but they're running the offense as if the other team wasn't there.
Like in practice.
Yeah, because they kept like I don't know if they had like cross court practice passing cross court passing
Yes.
practice during the All-Star break because they were like making these cross court passes that like there was no reason to do that. And by the way, there was a Laker right in the middle. Like what were you thinking? Like maybe that ran well in practice, but maybe you look up this time and see that oh, I'm passing it directly to Austin Reeves, and it just struck me like, oh, they're running the offense as if the other team wasn't there. Which a kudos that they were running an offense of any kind.
Yeah, great.
Lots of room for development.
I feel like the note they probably are like responding to is like to get out and transition more, like, but I don't know, like you don't want to get out and transition and turn the ball over.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like I can't remember. Those seemed like they were more like slightly set offenses because the getting out in transition is go to the bucket if you can't get it, just pass it out. And I feel like these were more, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't remember individual plays as well as I like imprint just sort of like generic like patterns.
Yeah.
You're really good at like remembering like specific plays, and I'm less good at remembering specific plays and just like sort of going, I saw this thing multiple times. I think it might be a pattern.
I mean, I've definitely seen them making those kinds of, I don't want to say reckless, but like loose cross-court passes that don't feel particularly necessary at the time. And also just seem risky because it's like usually if you make a cross-court pass, it's because everybody else is behind you. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like most of the other players are
Because the
still
other team
behind.
isn't in the middle.
Yeah, that's right. Um, and also one thing I did notice last night that I made me think of you immediately is I was like, oh, we got the ball stolen from behind.
Yes, but less frequently.
Yes, and it was toward the end of the game where it was like I think it was like Delano Banton or somebody. It was somebody who doesn't play a lot.
Hmm.
It wasn't one of the like typical starters or guys who gets really big minutes, but I was like, "Oh, there's that thing that Carrie always talks about." And it was like clearly on Jabari Walker when I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, Jabari, like you need to
Oh.
communicate that guy behind the point guard here."
And I wasn't in the stands yelling behind you like I did for like the whole first month and a half of the season. I was just up there yelling behind you. So I had a choir concert last night, and I not only
Ooh.
did not check my phone, I turned it completely off. And so when I turned my phone on at 9:45 last night after we'd packed up all the risers and walked out of the church, I was like, what happened in this game against the Hornets? I tried to watch it back this morning, but while Blazer Vision is excellent for like watching the games live, it's a little bit harder to find it and go back. So anyway, tell me what happened last night because you watched the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just I'll just say it was like the most relaxing watching experience because it was like they led at the very big like they well I don't say like I think Charlotte had like one lead ever. And then the very it was like with like the score was like 4-3 or
Yeah.
something. And it was like and then
I
the Blazers just led the whole way and built the score like the lead bigger every quarter. It was bizarre because I was like, is this what it feels like to just be coasting? I mean, I know that Charlotte's not good.
right. So yeah, how much of it was like my first assumption when I saw the score, I was like, "Oh, Lamelo must have not played," but he did in fact play. Were they?
Hmm.
And I know they have like a pretty long injury list, but they've had a long injury list pretty much the whole year. So
Hmm.
I think that I don't think that they like the line because I also have this theory going that like when the lineup is mixed up and that they're not expecting it, the Blazers have a hard time adjusting to that. So how much of last night's, decisive best ever in franchise history what victory was just that the Charlotte Hornets were that bad. Who, by the way, the Lakers just lost to them
Yeah,
by
I was
a
just gonna
lot
say,
the night before
I
they played the Blazers.
we just closed the loop.
Yeah,
Like we just closed the loop here where like the Lakers lost to the Hornets, we lost to the Lakers, and then we beat the Hornets. So we
yeah,
closed the loop on
yeah,
that
but
little trio.
yeah, but like how much was it? It was just like, oh, the Hornets just look awful, and how much of it was like Tumani defense?
I mean, I'll say it's tough, right? Most of it is that the Hornets weren't good. I think that's the big thing is that the Hornets weren't good. I think that the thing that I think about now, so they have injuries, they have had injuries all season, but I think that the thing that I think about now is like the Blazers' ceiling is pretty high when they're playing really well. And it's the Hornets' ceiling is probably not quite as high, in my opinion, when they're like even when they're healthy, versus like the Blazers like ceiling. And they're hurt, so their ceiling is much lower. So like the Blazers did play really well. They played good defense. Like they made their shots, which matters obviously. But like also there's no lineup that the Hornets could throw at the Blazers that they couldn't have done something with. Even being like thin at center. Like
Hmm.
they have two centers in Charlotte, which is like, one more than we have available to us right now, but it like largely didn't matter. I just it's so interesting because I was just thinking about this last night. The Hornets have been bad a long time. And I was trying to think about like what stars or like what big players they've built around. And like even right now, so they've had three top 10 picks in the last 5 years. And they got a discount on Miles Bridges because he's a bad person and
Hmm.
nobody wanted to compete to give him a bigger contract than that. And they're still like very meh. Like they're
Hmm.
very meh. And I just had this moment last night where I was like, thank God we're not the Hornets.
Yeah, so you feel a little bit better about the Blazers rebuild process.
Yeah, and also like I don't know where they are because they were just ready to like trade their center. They were
Hmm.
they tried to trade him and he's like pretty good. He's injured a lot, but like, he's pretty good and they just are building around LaMelo, I guess.
Hmm. Well,
And
and
I guess
Brandon Miller, I guess
and
too.
Brandon Miller who went down for this season, I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean, I guess if we were trying to decide like how much development is happening, one important thing that about that game against Charlotte is that the Blazers have this season played down to their competitive level or like not gotten up appropriately. Like they got killed by the Jazz.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
they didn't bring it for a game like that. And like I guess their spirit was right for this game against Charlotte, or at least they played up, they played the level that they needed to like beat a team that they should beat.
Yeah, yeah, I don't it's hard to they're just a hard team to judge because I'll say even the team that we played like in was it December or January? We played the
Jazz.
Hornets. The
Oh.
Hornets. Must have been January when we played the Hornets last time, where like they tried really hard to lose and like we
Oh yeah.
barely won.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was like, "Oh, this is an
Yes.
awful way to win." Um like they just don't even look this I don't know. Like both times we saw them, they just like look like fundamentally different bad teams.
Hmm. Yeah.
The last time I think LaMelo didn't play even.
Hmm.
Like the last time we played them, LaMelo didn't play. They like tried to like tank via availability. And yeah, I don't know. It must be hard to be a Hornets fan, is all I thought to myself.
Yeah.
It must be like really, really hard. And I know that everybody likes to blame Michael Jordan for why the Hornets franchise is bad, but like maybe they're just bad.
Hmm. They rode too many years on their uniforms. Too too many years of selling uniforms because they were cool, instead of trying to make their franchise better. Um,
Who's like the last Hornet that was like really good? That like everybody was like, oh man, because like when I think about the Hornets, I can't really think of anyone where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like Alonzo Mourning in the 90s.
Chris Paul wasn't.
Chris Paul when he yeah, I don't know. Like it's just been a
That's
long
a.
time.
I'm debating, like, do I want to spend any more time talking about the Hornets?
No, we don't have to.
Because we could totally go down that.
I sometimes like to play the game of looking at other terrible teams and like
Yes.
trying to make myself like be a little bit more realistic about my own. I did that with the Wizards last year and the Pistons last year. I did it with the Hornets just now. Like there's just something about like looking at other teams trying to rebuild where I'm like, well, at least we're not that team and I can feel good about that. I
Blazer
can feel like we're
legend Cody
going,
Zeller.
oh, that's right. Dennis Smith Jr., right?
Alonzo Mourning, Emeka Okafor. I'm just looking at like the people that pop up on Basketball Reference when you look up the Glenn Rice, Anthony Mason, Blazer legend Cody Zeller, Del Curry, Larry Johnson, Muggsy
Oh yeah,
Bogues.
Larry Johnson. I do remember Larry Johnson.
Gerald Wallace played for them.
Yes, because he was part of
Oh,
that.
Kemba Walker, but did he really play for them?
He did
Okay.
for a bit. They had
uh
Gordon Hayward for a long time. Remember when there was like that
oh
one offseason where Gordon Hayward was the guy? And then I think the Celtics signed him and then traded him like not that long after.
yeah.
Right? Because didn't he
Um
say he was gonna like he wanted to sign with because Brad Stevens
yes.
was his college
His
coach.
coach at Butler. Well, also Gerald Henderson came. They got Gerald Henderson and Noah Vonleh
Oh, that's
from the
right.
Hornets. So yeah, anyway, I guess so that my other question about the game against the Hornets and kind of compared to the game against the Lakers is the Laker game right after All-Star break. That was one where I was really feeling what you've described feeling before, where it was like, why are we playing? Why are Jeremy and Anthony out there? They're not having great nights. Just like why are you trying to put them out there to try to like get back in the groove? Like I- we they're okay. They'll be okay if they sit for the rest of the game and they play the younger players. How was the it seems like the Blazers got lots of young guy playing time versus the
Yeah, it was
Hornets.
like the whole fourth quarter
Hmm. But
was
like
young
even when they
guys.
were like building that lead, was it largely on Anthony and Jeremy, or was it on the younger guys?
It was a little bit more distributed than that. I mean, so like, like some every now and then we have those games, right, where like the it's like Ant and Jeremy took like 20 shots
Yeah.
apiece and whatever. But like, when you have a box score where like Tumani scored 20 points, like that's a good game. Like
Yeah.
he Tumani had 20 and I think like Denny had like 15 and like they got like 20 from Shaedon and like Scoot had like 15 or something and then Jabari Walker had like a really great game but also he got a ton of minutes because he got to play some minutes with the starters because we were short
Hmm.
in size. And then he also like closed the game. And it was so interesting because in the fourth quarter, we got to see like it was like Watt playing center and Jabari was in and Delano was in and Shaedon was actually playing quite a bit in the fourth as well. But it was so interesting that when it wasn't Shaedon on the floor, Jabari was like the number one option. Because like a lot of these other guys and then it was like Rupert was in there and but like Jabari was the seasoned like NBA guy on
Yeah.
when and actually one of the fun things about it was like we got to see Watt play some like true center type stuff and like he has pretty decent footwork. It's not the best but like he takes so many threes that you kind of forget that he also knows how to move in the paint
Hmm.
and we don't get to see it very often.
Yeah, when they send him out, it really is usually just to like hit threes. Well, I remember when I looked at the box score last night after I picked my jaw up off the floor at the discrepancy, I was like, there's no way that this box score adds up to 141 points
Oh.
because nobody scored like nobody went
Oh
off.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Nobody had like 40 points. I think Ant had 25.
Yeah.
But Jeremy didn't even have like 10. Jeremy was not on last night. It was just everybody had like 15 to 25.
Hmm.
And that was enough.
Yeah.
But they got like, 25 from Ant and like 20 from Tumani, 20 from Shaedon, 20 from Jabari, like, and then everybody, and then there was like, a next group of guys who had like 10 to 15. Like, I don't know. It was a lot of play from a lot of guys we don't typically get to see, and a lot of guys got to take shots, um, because there were shots to take.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember I was reading like the game summary and they were like, and
Mhm.
so had 20 and so had 20 and and I was like, okay, but who had 45?
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Yeah, it was a lot of distribution. You know, I remember when we talked to was it Mike Richmond? I think, and we were talking about like things that we were happy about this season, and I said, well, I was happy because we were finally collecting data. And then
Hmm.
he was like, well, what does the data say? And I was like, well, I don't know. You tell me. You're the one with the podcast that talks about stuff like that. So so since then I've been thinking like, okay, well, if I'm happy about data being collected, I should probably start paying attention to like what I'm seeing a little bit more. And what kind, like specifically what kind of development I'm seeing more. And one of the things that I'm seeing, and this is not quantifiable by data, but it was informed by the article that I think Jason Quick wrote about Scoot. I can't remember about the thinking and about how he's slowed
Oh
down
yeah,
his
yeah.
thinking.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like Scoot's development in terms of like not overthinking his passes and making them quicker, I felt like he's really stepped up into the running the show. Like I think he always believed
Hmm.
that he could do it, but like he described in this article that he just like was thinking so hard that it was hard to like calm his mind down. And I see that as a develop. That's like one of my favorite things that I've seen develop is his ability to actually like yes, because remember at the beginning we were like, can he actually run a an offense? And I'm really
Yeah.
liking what I'm seeing there.
Yeah, he looks much more comfortable than he's ever looked this whole time that he's been here. And he's not thinking about his shot. That's the other like other times like when he gets the ball and they know like you get the ball to him and he's open, he knows to take the shot and he just takes it. And like there at the beginning of the season, I was like, oh, maybe he's never gonna be able to hit like a pull-up jumper.
Yeah.
Like maybe he's not gonna
Maybe
maybe he's
that's
not
just
gonna be
not
able
for
to
us.
maybe he's not gonna like a pull up three, maybe that's not gonna be in his wheelhouse. And now he can do it. And he doesn't hesitate when he gets at like a catch and shoot three. Like he doesn't look to drive first. And that's like something that I really cared quite a bit about at the beginning of the season because everybody looked like they went to drive before they took that three. And I'm like, if you're open out there, the goal is for you to take those threes for in most cases and everybody wanted to drive. Everybody, paint would be crowded, and you'd see Tumani going to the hoop, you'd see Scoot going to the hoop, you'd see Shaedon going to the hoop, and I'm like, take the three, just do it. I know it doesn't feel as good. Just get comfortable, take the three. And now we're like seeing it, and I'm like, this is the best. And like Tumani is a way better shooter from three than he was like last year and the beginning of this year. And I don't know. Scoot's way better. Like I didn't know he was ever gonna get a three. I was mentally preparing myself for a world where Scoot couldn't shoot a three-pointer. And I was like,
Mhm.
is he gonna be a good enough distributor where he doesn't need to be able to shoot the three that well? I don't have to have that conversation anymore. He's gonna be serviceable from three. Like what an what an amazing load off my chest, I'll say. Because I just remember everybody talking right before De'Aaron Fox was traded. They were like, he's not good enough from three to be a starting point guard in the NBA. And I was
De'Aaron?
like, what? Yeah. People were saying that De'Aaron Fox is not good enough shooting from three, and maybe he shouldn't be the guy. And I'm like, well,
People just don't watch Kings games, I guess. Didn't watch Kings games, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
It I'm so proud of Scoot for sticking with it and also for not being like sour
Hmm.
because we did not treat him like a number three pick last year.
I mean, fans or
Like
this
just
is
the
the organization.
franchise,
The
the
organization didn't.
organization
Okay.
didn't like he played so little. I'm granted he was hurt, but like he got so little. We gave him so little at the beginning for somebody who was, a top three pick.
Yeah. Granted, his first pass was straight out of bounds.
Right, right. Totally. Totally. But I'm just saying that like, the number of minutes he played compared to most players that are chosen in top five is
Hmm.
was was wild. And even to start this season, they still made him like kind of win his minutes, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing the same thing happen with Shaedon, and I'm like, I'm having some feelings about Shaedon, to be
Okay.
honest.
What do you want to talk about him? Are we
What are
ready for this
we doing?
conversation?
I just don't know what we're doing with him. And I'm like, his next contract is looming. I'm like, what do you do? Like, what do you do?
Do you think he can be the guy?
I don't know. I think he's talented. So here, okay, full disclosure. I want Shaedon to be the guy. Can he be? Yes, I think he can be. Do I think he will be? I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing that I was hoping that we would see Shaedon do this year was to want to be the guy, and I'm not sure that I see somebody who wants to be the guy. That's my concern.
Hmm.
Do we want something for him that he doesn't want for himself?
Hmm. I'm I'm really interested to see as time goes by the stories that come out about the relationship with him and the other players. Because when I've seen teams be strong, they had a leader and then they had that connection to each other. And I think my my opinion about somebody being the guy was that they were going to be both the leader and the scorer and the person that, the straw that stirs the drink or whatever. And that's not what we're looking at right now. And I think you're right about the like we can't tell what people actually want because Shaedon has a very plain ass. We don't know. We just and we've talked about this before. Like we don't really know. Maybe he does, and this is how he shows it. Like we don't know. Um, but like I don't see I see him like cheering and celebrating guys from the bench, but I don't see him like grabbing the other players and like, really doing that type of like hyping all the other guys up and being everybody's hype man and doing those kind of like little intangible things. Like maybe he does them behind the scenes. We know that he's like funny and witty and everybody really likes him. Um and that he's a really good streaky shooter and he's very athletic. And that's still on year three what we know.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you this story, and I want you to take it with a grain of salt, but it's just one that I've been thinking about quite a bit this last year as I've been watching kind of Shaden's development unfold and watching him actually like lose ground in some ways, like minutes. I had a friend in college. I knew a guy in college who played football. He played football at the University of Oregon, which was a good football program. People are very lucky to get to go there to play football, but he wasn't in his chosen sport, his preferred sport. He didn't get recruited in his chosen sport. He got recruited to play football. Shaedon was originally a football player until like he was physically unable to play anymore. And the thing that I think about is when this guy that I knew, and I don't know how he thinks about it now. I haven't talked to him since college, but um, if you're not doing your passion, it's not the thing that you want the most, maybe you are cool just coasting on that thing until it's not the thing anymore. Like if I like when I knew this person, this person would have done anything to play basketball instead of play football.
Hmm.
But they weren't playing basketball. They were playing football. And then, if injuries show up for you, if it gets really hard, like if it's not your favorite thing, like maybe it's just the thing for now. And like no shade to people like that either. Just because you're really good at something doesn't mean that you should have to do that thing and be the best at it. But in the back of my head, I think about how Shaedon started as a football player. That was his passion growing up. He played football until like middle school or something. It's been a long time. I remember doing the Shaedon episode, but it's been a long time. But he had like an injury where he couldn't play football anymore, and then he moved to basketball kind of late, in like for a lot of pro
Hmm.
players anyway, kind of late. And I'm like, what if it's just like he's just this is just the thing for now,
Yeah. What
and he
I take,
accidentally ended up a pro.
well, what I take away from that is we were the ones, we meaning the collective we were the ones who had the hope that he would be the guy.
Mhm.
And maybe he's just a really great basketball player, a really good basketball player. And there's somebody else who's going to be the guy for the team. And you can still have really great role player. I mean, role players doesn't sound like
It sounds derogatory, but I know
it
you don't mean it that
does.
way.
Yeah, but like maybe Shaedon is a guy who has some really good skills that fit in with this team or whatever team he ends up playing on. He's a good complement to make maybe he's the guy who makes other people around him better, but he's not necessarily the leader. Or maybe he's somebody who makes the team better, but he's not necessarily like the leader of it. He's just like, "Oh, and you have Shaedon Sharp? That's great."
So let me ask you this. I think we both agree that we don't know if he's going to be the guy. I think we agree that he probably is talented enough to be the guy, but we don't know if that's one, what he wants, or two,
Mhm.
that's what he's going to be. If he's not, do you think there's still a role for him on this team that they're building? Or do you think it's better for him to to move to a team where the role is better for whatever it is his like long-term desire is for himself?
Gosh, I've not had time to really think about that, but my first thought that I went to when you asked that question is I was like, do I like watching Scoot and Anthony better or Scoot and Shaedon? Do I have more confidence watching Scoot and Anthony and Scoot and Shaedon? And when I want to see dunks, is Scoot and Shaedon. But when I want to feel like they can put 48 minutes together, I kind of think it's Scoot and Anthony for me, at least right now.
I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I'll say that. Like, I don't think, there's no, I don't think there's not a wrong answer. And
What about
I've,
you?
oh, gosh, I don't know. So I would love for to feel like it was Scoot and Shaden. I think that they work nicely together, but I also think that Shaden's minutes more more often than not to me feel like not the minutes you start with and not the minutes you end with in a basketball game. And sometimes when I think about like when you think about like winning games, like the closing lineup says a lot about your identity. And
Hmm.
when I can see so many closing lineups that we've put out there this season being so much better when it's not necessarily Shaden,
Hmm.
that makes me nervous.
Hmm. Hmm.
So in that way, like in closing lineups, I would probably rather have Ant out there with Scoot than Shaden. I think that's probably right. No, which is not to say that Shaden is not brilliant, and it's not that he can't put it together, but he's just a little bit streaky. Like sometimes he's got it on, and sometimes he doesn't. And
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and also for this team, I mean, if you looked at like the how much potential individual players bring, or like how much different players bring to the ceiling of Portland, like Denny and Tumani to me seem like more apt for the future of the franchise. And I think we spent a really long time with with the Blazers having two really good guards and then a third. And like I don't want to live that anymore. I want to just
Yeah.
have two guards and a backup point guard and a backup shooting guard. I don't want to have this rotating, oh, we're going to do the three guard. Not that I don't like the three guard lineup, but I would like the investment. Okay, I don't know that. I don't want to say that because that's like shutting Shaedon out of the future. But I think that it is entirely likely that Denny and Tumani are a more natural fit with Scoot's long-term future, possibly, than Shaedon is. How's that? Is that diplomatic
Yeah.
enough?
I mean, I also think I can agree with that because Tumani and Denny are both very well suited to the modern game, right? They're highly switchable. They play both ways. Scoot plays both ways, which, by the way, can I just say, I love that we're having this conversation and we're like, who fits best next to Scoot? Because I think we both agree that we can see the path forward for Scoot, which is amazing.
Hmm.
Like at the beginning of the year, I don't know if you and I felt confident that we could, and now we both can see it. And I'll just say, like, for me, it's been such a luxury to watch a guard play such great defense. Like, he really goes after it on defense. And that's why I'm like, there's only room for Anthony or Shaedon. There is not room for two holes on defense anymore.
Right. That's a great point.
Like that was the thing that made it really hard with Damon CJ is neither of them were great guard defenders. And Scoot's just he gets after it on defense. He looks really great.
Hmm.
I I after that we heard from Chauncey that Shaedon has was out of the starting lineup because his defense was like suffering. I started paying more attention to it, and I'm like, oh, I can kind of see what he's talking about.
Hmm.
Um, and the one thing that I will say is, Shaedon, his affect and I don't know exactly how he is, privately, but like his affect is very like chill, laid back vibes. Like, he has a lot of like natural talent, but defense is one of those things where it's reactive. You have to be engaging like deeply on defense to like make good decisions to the point where you're like reacting without your brain doing the thing. And
Hmm.
it's like Shaedon, I can see his brain working. I can see him like trying to decide where to be.
When
But I
we
love that he's trying.
Yeah. When we roll it back to what we were saying earlier about like being the team that nobody wants to play, like I bet if you asked other people like, who do you like hate to play on the Blazers, they go, oh, Tumani and Denny and Donovan and maybe even Jeremy Grant, because we know that he's, got the reputation of having been a defender before and he certainly can do it. But I don't know how. I wonder how much fear Shaedon's defense puts into opponents. My guess would be not nearly as much as like Tumani's. And I think, they probably do consider his like offensive threats, but the way this team seems to be building and moving forward is defensive threats first. And this is also to say I think Shaedon could be an I'm not starting the advocating saying trade Shaedon. Don't I'm not
Yes,
saying
yes.
any of that, but I could see him doing really well on a team with a different kind of identity than one that is, intensely defensive.
Yeah, and this is what I'll say, like this is where it all goes back for me is like who's the next coach of this team?
Hmm.
Like you're building your for the future, but like the captain of your ship matters quite a bit. And maybe they will have maybe whoever comes next will have a really great role like visualized for Scoot that better
Hmm.
fits what we see of like his strengths. One of the things that I like, and I know again, I'm not like trying to be down on Shaedon because I still do really want him to be that guy. And I just don't feel like I've seen the things this season that I had hoped where I would be like, oh yeah, he's the guy. Like send it, like check that like need off our list. We have it. Um, but maybe he's gonna be a really great sixth man. Like,
Hmm.
can you imagine Shaedon's like offensive skill set running against second units? Like, I think about like it's not exactly the same style, but like Malik Monk in Sacramento back when he was the sixth man. He was like a super sixth man and he was super potent on offense and he like made second units work really hard. Um, Maybe that's the kind of role that Shaedon needs.
Yeah, well, and maybe it isn't the Blazers if like maybe he's the
Yeah.
backup shooting guard. Because one of the things that I do keep thinking to myself over and over again when I watch him play is there are so many ways this guy can score. Like he puts some stuff and I'm like, okay, I don't want to like be accused of like hyperbole, but that was like a Michael Jordan shot. The way that he finished that. Like, where did that come from? But like he has so many ways that he can score. I just don't know that I want him to be the one alongside Scoot. And yeah. Oh, I feel terrible saying that, but whatever.
I
It's
think
just
that
an opinion.
yeah, yeah, and also like we don't have to be married to these opinions. Next week
Yeah.
it could change. Like the thing that I keep thinking about is how like we weren't confident about Scoot until we were.
Hmm.
We didn't see the path forward until we could. Like, and I one of the things that I'm a little bit nervous about is like I think you're kind of onto something about like when hearing maybe one day hearing about the relationships that he had with our team. Like he doesn't feel particularly close to anyone. And you hear about like Scoot and Tumani or like best buds, and you see like the really good like chemistry between Tumani and Denny, and like you see these like and Denny just got here like this season, and you hear about all these guys like really like vibing with each other, and like Shane's just chilling.
Hmm.
And I want to I'm curious about who can engage him as a teammate, as a contributor, as a like culture guy, in addition to being a basketball player. Because I don't think that that is the only thing. Like I don't think that's the only thing that matters. But I think that that matters quite a bit when you get these guys going through rough patches together and finding ways through. Like you always hear about like the team culture that carried them.
Hmm.
Like I don't know. What's his vibe? Do you know what Shane's vibe is besides just
Chill.
chill?
Yeah, well, we've got, the rest of the season to find out. And my hope, my biggest hope for the rest of the season is that we get to continue to see these guys play. Is that
Yes.
Donovan, Shaedon, Scoot, Tumani, Denny, that they stay healthy and are able to like log minutes because we need reps. We need Shaedon to have a chance to be like, oh, I seem really chill, but I can score every which way. And that is a skill set that the Blazers need because they have a lot of really good defensive players, but they do need at least one guy who can go off and, get you 20, 25 points without even thinking about it. So that's my biggest hope, I guess, for the rest of the year.
I'm totally with you on that. I I was so disappointed last season when everyone was hurt for so much of this, like so much of the season, so much of the best parts to see guys.
Hmm.
And if like we can see the guys that we think are still like part of our future play together more, I would love that.
Hmm.
I feel very confident based on like the messaging we've seen out of the organization and like all, like I think Denny and Tumani are here to stay. I think that Scoot is like people have taken notice of him again and they realized, oh, he's good. I think that DeAndre Ayton has earned more respect here than like he came in with, and I'm really, really happy for him. Um, and I honestly like I'm not ready to part with him yet. I think that his absence has been felt since he went down with that injury, and like the game is harder without him.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't hate watching basketball this season. Last year felt pretty bad.
Yeah.
This year I found basketball far more enjoyable to watch. There's more interesting things to watch for. Watching Donovan develop has been interesting. Watching people just fear him in the paint is delightful.
You know what my favorite thing Donovan does? I talked about it a little bit yesterday with Tom, is when he gets a block and the ball.
Yes. Because sometimes he just
Can you remember the last time the Blazers had a center who got the block and the ball on a regular basis?
mm-mm. I can't think
It wasn't Nurk.
no.
It wasn't
Rolo
Hassan Whiteside.
Rolo could do it, but not very often.
Uh-huh.
Rolo was more of like a rim protector than I think a lot of the like centers we've had
Hmm.
as of late. Not Hassan Whiteside.
Yeah. I was just like,
I forget he was a Blazer.
for some reason I just never forget that. I'll I will never forget that time.
Yeah.
Um,
That was a weird time.
yeah, I just remember so vividly being in Phoenix and watching. That was like the last trip that I made right before the pandemic shut everything down. I went to Phoenix for the game and just watching Trevor Ariza screaming at Whiteside.
God,
I
Trevor
think it was in
Ariza was a
Phoenix.
Blazer.
Was that year? Was that in Denver? If I got that wrong, maybe it was in Denver, but somewhere I was a visiting in an arena and Trevor Ariza was lighting into Hassan Whiteside.
How many arenas have you been to?
Okay, let's see. Utah, Memphis, Sacramento, Phoenix, Denver, New York, Brooklyn, and I went to a Clippers preseason game, but I haven't gone
Oh.
to an actual game in crypto yet. We wanted to go. I really super wanted to go to the Clippers Open or the Blazers versus Clippers this year to be able to go to the new arena
Mm.
right when it's brand new, but obviously we didn't make that happen. So yeah, those are the ones I've been to. Which ones have you been to?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen the Blazers play in all of these places, but I have been I have been to, well, I've been to the old Kings Arena.
Hmm.
Um, I've been to Madison Square Garden.
Hmm.
I've been to DC. I forget what Capital One, I think, is their arena. Um, and I've been to one other. What is it? I
Oh,
haven't been to that many games, away games.
I saw a preseason game at Oracle in Oakland. That's the one in
Oh,
Oakland, right?
yeah. Yeah,
I
Oracle.
saw a preseason game there one time.
So I think I told you this before, but like the one thing that was like stood out to me about Capital One was that it was like the Wizards were the away
The away
team.
team.
Yes, because Washington DC is filled with a bunch of
Hmm.
transplants. And so like the congregate like the or not the congregation, excuse me, the delegations from all the different states show up for their team
Yeah.
coming through and you know, it, it just felt really weird and I felt bad for them because they were really bad when I saw them.
I mean, they've been really bad for a really long time. I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, they were John Wall bad. There was like the
Yeah.
era of John when John
Ugh.
Wall was still on that team.
Wow, man, they've really been through it.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into takes or do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Um, I think that I'm ready to go next. I just want to like make it clear though to everybody who's listening, I am not down on Shaedon. I think that Tara and I are both kind of in agreement that we really wish he were the guy and we wanted like we would love for that to be his role, but also just sort of acknowledge that it's not for sure.
Well, right. And then also other people have come in who seem more naturally inclined to take on that role, which doesn't mean that Shaden can't have a role, but he
Right.
just not might not have that role that that we were hoping in. So yeah, we're this is a very pro Shaden Sharp podcast. We're just
Yes.
trying to be realistic, you know.
Yeah.
We have
And
to like
we know his next contract is going to be here before like these other guys that we're talking about. Like we have time to figure out, you know,
mhm.
our paths on all of this. But Shade, like, what is it? Next year is like the year where we decide what happens, right?
Mhm.
We picked up his player option for next year, and then I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but I'm glad that the trade deadline is over, the All-Star game is passed, and I just hope that we get to, watch the Blazers. I'm not gonna expect, a 53-point win every night, and their schedule gets hard.
Yeah.
But I think that's really good, and I think that is makes it more likely that everybody is gonna play. And you know what I mean? That they're
Yeah.
not gonna just like bring in 10-day guys that like if they're the Tom was saying that the Blazers are like one of the top five healthiest teams this season, which is not something that they've had. Um,
Wow.
but I think the fact that they have a lot of really stiff competition coming up for people who might be worried about the lottery pick situation, I still think the Blazers are going to be fine, but it'll be really good opportunities for them to show that they've developed not only they've definitely like developed in terms of like their offense has gotten better. Like individuals offense has gotten better. And
Hmm.
so I guess what I'm saying is maybe at the end of the season, we'll see if their like team offense has gotten better.
Yeah, that'll be fun. It's weird. I was hoping that I would feel this way last year at this point in the season to be like, well, we're just going to see like what happens when you put these guys out there and let them do
Hmm.
whatever. And now we're here. And so I'm genuinely excited for this moment, thinking it's been delayed a year, but we're here.
Hmm.
And just please, like, no more injuries.
Hmm.
It's so sad to see guys in boots. Like I saw DeAndre's now wearing a boot.
Yeah, I didn't know it
Boots
was
are
that
not good.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, boots are
He
not
was
good.
wearing one boot and one like really cozy looking slipper, which I totally appreciated at the
Okay,
Laker
question.
game.
Before we go to takes, do you think we see Matisse Thybulle this year?
I don't know. I I have no idea. I mean, I would
This is
think
the
not.
craziest sprained ankle.
Well, but I mean, sadly, remember Justice Winslow had the same kind of thing. Like, although he didn't miss an entire year, but he sprained it in the game. I think that Dame was supposed to get his one of the games that Dame was supposed to get his yeah, all-time Blazer scoring record. And then he was never seen again. He hasn't played basketball again.
I thought he was playing on someone's G League team.
Did he go to a G League team? Okay, so
I
but
think
he
he was,
hasn't
I
played in
think
the
he,
NBA since.
yeah, I think he's on like maybe the Raptors
Okay.
or something, the Raptors 905 or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been somewhere like that.
Hmm.
But I also could be making that up. I could have hallucinated that.
So I don't know, what do you think? You think we'll see Matisse?
I don't think we'll see Matisse. I hope to be wrong, just to be clear.
Hmm.
But I'm like, if Matisse, it's February 23rd today.
Hmm.
We haven't seen him at all. Like,
Hmm.
is it going to
Yeah.
heal in the next 3 months or 2.5 months or whatever?
And I think, he's got a body of work. I don't think it's like, oh, we
Hmm.
got to get him out there to showcase him so that people can, see or whatever. He's got a body of work. If somebody wants if somebody's at the point next season where Matisse is like the piece that they need, they can tell. He doesn't need to play the last of this season for them to be able to tell that.
Yeah. What a weird world though, where we like matched his qualifying or matched his offer when he was a restricted free agent
Yeah.
and then didn't play him for a year.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Anyway.
maybe he's providing mentorship and advice for some of our defenders because we know that he's like the magician defender. And now we have all these young up and coming defenders. So maybe that is we need so okay, I'm actually gonna go into my take
Yeah, get at it. Tell me,
because
share it's your take.
I sort of have like a mini, it's not really a take, but I have a mini list of things that I would like some reporters to cover. Um and so one and is like I want to know what Matisse has been up to. Like we know he did the WAP Wreath video, which was really great, and then he did the Chauncey Billups video, which was really great. Like maybe he's behind the scenes making some more videos for the Blazers. I don't know, but I would love to know from one of our stellar reporters out there what Matisse has been up to. But the other one that I want to know is I want to know who's the guy who's buying the suits for rookies. Because you know how that was always like
Yeah,
one of my
yeah.
favorite things, to find out like how veterans welcome new players into the organization. And we've
Hmm.
had so many young players come in that maybe we just don't have enough of them. And I'm sure that like Scoot's suits were taken care of by his sisters who are like stylists and like he already has his own like point of view on style or whatever. But it's like the symbolic the buying of the suit. So I want to know who are going to be the people on the team who, because that's part of being the guy. Who's the guy who's going to buy the rookies their suits? So those are a couple of topics that I would love to hear from Blazer Media. Those are not really takes, but sort of.
Yeah, I mean, who on a team that's as young as ours, it's hard to imagine who's doing that.
Hmm.
But also maybe more important that we have something like that built into our culture because a lot of the guys are like leaving home for the first time,
Yeah. Well,
especially if they didn't go to college.
and maybe if like DeAndre sticks around for another year, maybe that's something that because that role is really the like, here's how to be in the NBA. I don't know if DeAndre's the best person to teach that. I don't know that he's not. I know that Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum were exemplary at it because
Yeah.
that was their brand, was being like, super, super dudes. So yeah, anyway, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, that I love that take, and I also would be curious to know the answers to those and how we're setting a culture with our young guys that is something that can be fault like they can lean on when they're actually trying to play for something.
Mhm.
Because I think that that matters quite a bit for some of these teams to persevere together. They have to have a culture that they can lean back on
And
to.
I will say to the Blazers credit, we have heard, and to Blazers media credit, we have heard a little bit about like Jeter and how he
Mhm.
was, you know, I don't know if he was brought in because of Scoot, but they had a very close tie, and they're continuing to have that close tie because the Blazers brought Jeter in. And in the I think the quick article about Shaedon, I think it was quick. I could be wrong about this, but they've brought in a mentor for Shaedon as well. So credit to the Blazers for trying to do that.
Yeah, and also credit to what is it, Jeremy Grant, who hooked up Scoot with his shooting coach.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like, they clearly the vets are doing like some stuff to help our players, develop toward whatever it is their goals are.
I just had this thought of, I wonder if Jeremy advised Jabari, because Jabari has such a strong point of view. I'm so impressed with how many of these young guys have a very strong fashion point of view.
Hmm.
And I wonder if Jabari ever talked to Jeremy about that.
I don't know. I bet you that when it's all said and done with this team, the stories that we hear about Jeremy are all really, really nice. And
Hmm.
then he's somebody who's quiet enough that he would never toot his own horn over contributions he made to other players because he's like seems very self-possessed and comfortable with who he is. And like we might find out that he's done actually a lot for guys. Like realizing that Jeremy, like his new teammate Scoot, he was like, here's a guy who can help you develop. That's like nice. And we all know that Jeremy had to develop that shot over the course of his career. So, like, you know, I,
Yeah,
I could just see him being quiet about it all.
totally. And you know what I would like? I would like to add one thing to my list of requests. I would
Hmm.
like Matisse's next video to be about Jeremy Grant. Thank you, Matisse,
Oh,
for considering.
thank you, Matisse. Also, I wonder, do you think that it's possible that Matisse could be like a social intern while he's injured? Because he does make great videos, and
That's
like
what I'm
maybe
saying.
he should work with Tristan. Maybe Tristan and Matisse can tag
They've
team some
been
great Blazer
putting out
content.
more interview videos, and there was one I was like, that actually kind of looks like the same point of view as the ones that Matisse did for WAP and Chauncey. So I think he might, I don't know. That's my conspiracy theory of the day to go along with my take.
So Matisse, since you listen to this podcast, I assume, please just like slide into Tara's DMs and let her know the answer to this. And if you want to come on and help us do a deep dive into somebody, because we do love to do that on this podcast, you are welcome to join us as a guest.
Yeah, or just release that Jeremy Grant video that you're going to make at our very polite request. Please, thank you.
All right.
Okay, Rose, what's your take?
So this is my take. After the All-Star break, so everybody came back with fresh haircuts, like school picture day, because
Hmm.
they all have time to like care for themselves. And I was just like, this team is babies. Like once they all had haircuts, I was like looking at them. I'm like, this is like, it was like a reminder that you all are like boys. Seeing Anthony in his fresh cut. And I know he's somebody's dad now, but he still looks like a baby with his little like tight cut. And like we saw Scoot got a haircut, we saw Denny got a haircut, like two got new braids, like everybody did stuff, and they all Donovan got a haircut. Like they all just look like boys, and I was like, oh, they're all our babies. And also it was sort of a nice reminder to like be kind as we go into the end part of the season that might feel really hard because these are young kids just working to live out their dream and play basketball. They're just baby boys.
I love that. But so but it reminds me of when I had my three boys. Every time they had their first haircut, it was like, oh, they're not babies anymore. They look like boys. You know what
Oh
I
yeah.
mean? But I like when I saw Anthony's new haircut, I was like, oh, he looks a little bit grown up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't,
Mhm.
it's something about a haircut sometimes is like signifies like transitions just like visually. And it's just so funny because I've noticed that all my life when somebody gets a major haircut or like the first time your kid gets a haircut, it's always like, oh, this is a big transition. And really it's just a haircut. But I totally see what you mean because it's like they were, they had their long young curls and then we cut the curls off and now they have like the tight, short cut and it's like now it's time to go back to school.
Yeah, totally. So first day of school, school picture day, like all of that. And then also like I was having this realization while I was watching the Laker game and I was like, LeBron, you're fighting with a bunch of boys. Like, why are you out here crying about what like a little boy did to you? Like you're a grown man. Like, grow up.
I still think it's incredible that he's doing what he's doing at 40.
Incredible.
I cannot get over that. It's just bizarre.
Incredible. And here's my bonus take, which is one that I like kind of teased like weeks and weeks ago and I never said because I don't think we didn't record in time or something else came up. But like one of the things that I'll say this is a courtesy of Connor Bergen because when I saw Connor at the game, he was like, "Oh, this should be your take." I told him this thing and he's like, "This should be your take." When I was at the Suns game, I was looking at Kevin Durant and because we were sitting really, really close, and I was like, God, he's so bald up close. Like balder than you'd think up close. And his shorts were teeny tiny, like so much teenier, tinier, and tighter than you could have ever imagined on TV. Like when you're up close and you can see him just like 30 feet away, like he's so bald. Anyway, courtesy of Connor Bergen right there. But the point is like these guys are like they made it all the way to middle age and they're still like the some of the best in the game, which is just crazy. And the other guy, like a bunch of the other guys that were all like, you're about to be the best in the game, they're all like 24, 26. And these guys are like mid late 30s and 40. Now LeBron's
Hmm.
40. Like it's just could
Yeah.
never could never imagine that we would be at this place in history where we would see like 40-year-old guys who are bald totally dunking on like the youngest and the brightest.
Yeah. Well, a lot of players in the league who were not born when LeBron started. It's not just like a tiny handful.
Yeah,
There's
that's right.
a large handful at least. All right. Well, it's been great
Yeah.
talking to you, Rose. Let's see. Anything else we need to cover? I think we got it there. Everybody can find us on Blue Sky at TCB Bigs, at Roselle Harding, at We Have a Take. Find us on all the places where you get podcasts. Listen to and enjoy the getting to know Tom Haberstroh. I'm so bummed that you weren't able to be there, but I had such a great time getting to know him, and I think people will really enjoy hearing more about his story because he only has like 30 seconds to talk here, 1 minute to talk there, and we don't really get to hear much about him. So I loved it. Thank you everyone for listening to us, and go Blazers.